Good afternoon. Uh, Shout out to the Salvation Army. Yeah, great, great, great job. I was there, and I want to shout out to all of y'all. You know who you are, and I wanted to just let you know. I was thinking about you because I told you I was gonna give you a shout out. Okay, so all right, so now today we're gonna talk about something that you know that we believe here. Most of the time it's all about race. In most issues. But what we're talking about today will be kind of like, well, yeah, race again, okay. Because what we heard, we saw an article about, it was about Whitey Herzog, my favorite manager here. I'm a baseball guy too, but I'm not a reporter for the Cardinals. But they were talking about him, you know, the, the great years, they were great years, so and but they were talking about, well, why did he resign? Why did he resign? 1990, yeah, he resigned, and he said, so they came up with some reasons. Yeah, said it was, hey, he lost the team. They weren't listening. Whitey Ball was kind of, on his way out. This and that. They came out with all the, excuses, but they didn't say this. I'll say it though, because this is real life live. We talk about, facts, truth. Number one reason was racism. It caused Whitey Herzog to resign. Okay? I'll tell you, the fans, they revolted. Okay? In the 90s, kind of like as the, in 89, I was here, and the problem was Whitey Herzog had a damn near all black starting unit, okay? The starting players were black, most of them, because they were good, so they earned the stock. They earned those those uh, those those jobs. So he had them out there, but they were black. Remember I told you about what happened in the NBA with the NBA with the black, black white folks don't like that. When you're winning, yeah, they'll tolerate it. But even in the NBA, when we were talking about with the basketball, they didn't tolerate it because it was basketball. But here in St. Louis, we, I love baseball too, but they, love the Cardinal baseball. That's it. Okay. So if they want basically white Cardinal baseball, they don't mind some blacks as long as they're great. Now I know this town, great black, they'll do that, But it started, to kind of shit started going downhill because the I'm the 1989 toward the 90s, they weren't winning as much, but they had a great 1980s, pennants, and everything. I'll tell you, Whitey Ball in the 80s, but it was great, but it involved a lot of black players. You see what I'm saying? So, uh, which is fine when you're winning, here in St. Louis, it's fine. But when you start losing, then, the arrows start coming out. Okay, and in 1990, I mean, before he resigned, I mean, they were coming out. The fans, you know, the white fans in this town, you know, a lot of them, they don't, hey, this is a racist town. I'll just call it what it is. But at that time, they damn near revolted. They were angry. And they had, they were on the radio station and they were talking all over the place. Oh, radio station. Speaking about, talking about that, that kind of reminds me of a one radio show that I was listening to, you know, and it was in, I guess, June 1990, and it was on KMOX, okay, KMOX, and it was a Sunday show. I think it was Sunday. Yeah, I think they, yeah. I remember the show like it was yesterday, and the hosts were Ron Jacober. Okay, he was an old white guy, and he was here for a long time, sports, and a young Mike Claiborne. Okay, now he's an announcer for the Cardinals. You see what I'm saying? He's been there a while too now, over, I think over 30 years or so. But he was there. And it was him and Ron Jacober. All right. And it was the morning show. Okay. So at that time now, Whitey was sending out damn near all black starting lineup. There was one guy. There was one white guy. His name was Tom Brunansky. Okay. Got him from Minnesota. All right, in a train, and he was a good average hitter, average, good, decent power, not a 435 home run. He was a good, decent ball player. Wasn't a Hall of Famer, he wasn't, all-star, nothing like that. Okay, but he was decent. But he was only white starter in the lineup. Okay. All the other starters were black. McGee, Combe, Ozzie, it was a lot. Pendleton, it was a lot of, okay. But here's the thing. The starters were black, but the team was basically still about 70% white or something like that. It was just the starters that were black, and it was 8 of them, and what? So, 65, I don't know, But anyway, that angered the fans. They didn't like that. In fact, they got very angry. In the start of the show, the first caller said, and then KMOX, open line, here comes the caller. First question was, what do Tom Brunansky and Jackie Robinson have in common? That was the caller. I think Jacob, one of them, but then they got it. And they started, and everybody that was listening, I got it, racial, the race shit, here we go. It's always about race. So that's what it was, they were angry. The fact that he kept on having to go out here and look at all these black players coming out here on the field. If they're on the bench, it was cool. We have to see them. But we had to see them because they're starters. So they're angry. Okay, so on the radio show, so that was the first call. Wow, what does Tom Brunansky and Jackie Robinson have in common? Well, in other words, Jackie Robinson was just the only black player on the Dodgers. So they kind of, in a twisted way, kind of try to relate that with what was going on in St. Louis with the lineup with Herzog sending out all black lineup, but it was basically all black starters, but they were because they were the best players, and Runansky, he was a starter too, so but he was white and they were there. Okay, so on and on. I'm listening to this radio show, and the callers, it was the most racial, you know, uh, most hateful radio show I've ever listened to, because they was just lambasting, they were Whitey, why the blacks this, black, blah, blah, blah. It was all, they didn't have to, they didn't go all, because they can't say that. But boy, whew, it was a hell of a show, y'all. I'm telling you, it was all about race. So, boy, y'all, you hearing all this other stuff where, it was about Whitey couldn't control the book. No. Whitey was cool with the players. And he had to resign because of the heat from the fans. But he couldn't say that, because he's from, he didn't want to burn no bridges. You see what I'm saying? But he knew what was going on. He knew it was all about race. But in the press conference, in San Diego, he said, the other things, well, it's the team, I can't play the way I want to play, this and that. It was all that. So, but I got with it, hey. I knew exactly what it was. And that show was telling it, and as the show went on damn near, oh yeah, by the way, and then as it closed, the last caller, now it was Ron Jacoby, he said we're going to take this last caller. The last caller asked this question: what are the chances of St. Louis getting an NBA team? Ron Jacoby, he was like, are you kidding me? I done listened to just the most, racist show that I've ever had to host here. Me and Mike Claiborne was there. He handled that too. Well, Jacoby said, after he said that, asked about the what are the chances of St. Louis getting an NBA team, and of course, well, he said, quote, St. Louis is too prejudiced as a city to have an NBA team. That'll never happen. That's what Jacoby said. Well, we already knew that because we already ran. The racists ran NBA team out of here. I said that on video down, back down the road. So that last question, it was ridiculous. After all that racism, then the last white caller, he goes, what's the chances that we going to get an NBA team? What, so you can run another one out of here? I don't know, was he joking or not, but the Jacoby, and he was like, Claiborne, we all, I said, that's crazy. But yeah, but that was it. Okay? That was it. The reason why Herzog had to go, because it was too much, too black of a theme. Too many black starting players that the white fan base had to see and had to look at on a daily basis. So it all came to a head, and Whitey just said, well, it's time to go. Because Whitey Ball was basically involved, like I said, and that's what it was. It involved a lot of black players because it involved speed. Okay, so there it is. So as we kind of close on this show, that I had to kind of check that and kind of straighten that out, because I saw that article, and they were going, all the St. Louis guys, well, it was this and that and this and that. They never mentioned about that radio show, but that show was keeping me. That was it. Now I already knew it. But I listened to that whole radio show, and they didn't. And then when I saw that article, I said, yeah. So they won't, they don't want to ever talk about, the real reasons. But most of the things that go on in Missouri and St. Louis, it's all about race. So we had to talk about that, And like I said, Whitey had though, Whitey had a great, a time here. The 80s were great. 3 pennants. He should have won three titles. But won in 82, 85, Coleman got hurt, blah, blah, and all that. And Don, that call, I'm going to talk about that in another show. The way, Whitey, and everything, the way he handled that. And then, in 87, we lost to Minnesota. Okay. But, we had, Clark was hurt, and Pendleton too, but we went 7 games in those 2 World Series that we lost. So Whitey was a great manager. Super. Okay. So, but the reason why he had to get out of here, because he won the races, that wasn't on his card, But that's what it is here. It's a racial big time theme here. So, and he had to go. So, but Whitey, a great guy. He's one of my favorites, So, I miss him, and everything like that. But yeah, that was the reason why he had to go, because it was a race. Okay, racism was the reason that Whitey Herzog had to resign managing the St. Louis Cardinals.